A 40-car Russian supply train disappeared into a mountain tunnel nearly 2,000 kilometers inside Russian territory, in a region Moscow considered completely beyond Ukraine's reach. 8 FPV drones had been flying toward that tunnel for almost an hour, using a relay chain stretched across dozens of kilometers of forest and mountain, waiting for exactly this moment. A standard FPV drone has an effective range of a few miles at best. This mission required nearly 20 times that, which meant Ukraine couldn't just fly the drones in directly. Instead, a chain of relay drones was spaced out at set intervals between the control station and the target, each one passing the signal to the next, like a bucket brigade. Primary relays flying high for the cleanest transmission, backups flying low and hidden in terrain to avoid being an easy target themselves. It was a fragile system by design, built to survive losing any single link without losing the whole chain. It was tested almost immediately. A Russian man-portable air defense system locked onto and destroyed the primary relay drone at high altitude, severing the link outright. For several seconds, the control station's screens showed nothing but static while the system searched for a backup route. When the backup relay finally activated, it wasn't positioned optimally, and signal strength dropped by half. Video arrived in broken fragments. Altitude readings jumped erratically. It was barely functional. It was enough. The pilots regained just enough control to keep all 8 drones moving toward the target. This operation had never rested on drones alone. Weeks earlier, a partisan cell working with Ukrainian intelligence had quietly placed a large explosive charge beside the tracks just past the far side of the tunnel, timed to detonate at the exact moment the locomotive cleared the exit, while most of the train remained trapped inside the mountain. Too early, and the train stops short. Too late, and the cargo that actually mattered clears the kill zone. Separately, an electronic warfare team monitored Russian transmissions for any sign the operation had been compromised, ready to intervene the moment the drone signal degraded further. Every piece depended on every other piece landing at precisely the right second, weeks after the plan had first been set in motion. The pilots themselves had trained for exactly this kind of degraded signal flying. Hundreds of hours spent controlling drones through distorted, flickering video, learning to navigate by counting seconds and watching for a road, a river, a tree line in whatever fragments of image made it through. That training became the only thing keeping the formation on course as the lead drone, still miles from the target, flew straight into a dedicated Russian electronic warfare network built specifically to stop exactly this kind of attack. Multiple jamming stations activated in sequence, some hitting the video frequency, others the control channel, another corrupting the positioning data outright. Signal delay spiked from a barely manageable 50 milliseconds to several hundred. The pilots adapted by cutting quality entirely, sending back only isolated frames and bare telemetry instead of a steady video stream. The picture dropped to a frame every couple of seconds. In between those frames, the drones flew on inertia and preloaded terrain data alone, essentially guessing their position until the next clear moment arrived. No jamming system can flood every frequency at maximum power simultaneously though, and that gave Ukraine something to exploit. Each time the Russian system pivoted to block a new frequency, a brief gap opened somewhere else. The lead drones flew as probes specifically to trigger those pivots, and every time a gap opened, the data behind it, altitude, heading, rough position, got relayed instantly to the rest of the formation before the window closed again. When Russian jamming escalated to actively spoofing GPS coordinates, feeding the formation false positions that would have flown them straight into a mountainside if trusted, the pilots simply stopped trusting satellite data altogether and cross-referenced whatever terrain fragments came through instead. A road for half a second, a tree line, the edge of a building. 3 matching reference points were enough to confirm the formation was still on course, false coordinates or not. At the deepest point in the jamming zone, Ukraine's own electronic warfare team made a calculated gamble, a brief, high-powered transmission to punch a clean window through the interference just long enough to confirm the formation's position visually. It worked, and it also lit up Ukrainian equipment like a beacon on Russian detection gear. The operator held the transmission exactly as long as needed, then killed it, and had the equipment moving before Russian direction finding could lock down a location. The formation had its confirmation. That was worth the risk. Closer to the target, the drones dropped low enough to follow the rails themselves visually, which meant GPS jamming stopped mattering entirely, since a camera locked on two steel lines doesn't need satellites to know where it's going. Russian defenders adjusted accordingly, and a short-range air defense system picked up the lead drone on radar, missiles ready to fire within seconds. Ukraine had planned for this too. A half-dozen cheap decoy drones fitted with radar reflectors suddenly appeared on the same screen, each one reading as a threat roughly equal to the real attack drones. Unable to reliably tell real targets from decoys under time pressure, the Russian crew fired on nearly everything, burning through most of their missile stock on devices that individually cost less than a laptop. The real drones kept flying. With most of its missiles spent, the air defense system switched to its automatic cannons, throwing up a dense wall of fire directly across the approach corridor. Straight-line flight into that wall meant losing the whole formation. Two lead drones broke off deliberately, one diving straight at the gun system's radar, the other circling in from its blind side, both drawing every bit of return fire onto themselves for the several seconds the rest of the formation needed to drop low and slip through the gap that opened. The remaining six held position out of sight as the train's locomotive finally entered the tunnel, waiting, because striking too soon meant hitting an empty section of track instead of a fully loaded train. Only when intercepted radio traffic confirmed the locomotive was about to emerge from the far side did the formation commit, accelerating together along the rails toward the buried charge. The plan had originally called for a direct hit on the detonator itself. A last-second surge in Russian jamming power degraded the video feed too badly to risk it. A small target with an unreliable picture wasn't worth the miss. The pilots adjusted in real time, hit the lead fuel car instead, and let the resulting fire set off the charge on its own. Through a handful of clear frames, the operator watched the locomotive clear the tunnel mouth, timed the closing distance by speed and instinct once the picture failed completely, and flew the final stretch essentially blind. The first drone struck the lead fuel car directly. The warhead punched through the tank wall and ignited tens of thousands of liters of fuel in an instant, a fireball engulfing the locomotive and the cars immediately behind it. Emergency brakes locked the train to a stop exactly where it needed to, roughly half the cars still trapped inside the mountain. 10 seconds later, a second drone dove through the smoke and flame, navigating on nothing but a half-second glimpse of the rails, and struck the fuel car directly behind the first impact. Burning fuel spread along the railbed straight toward the buried charge. The detonation, when it came, sent a shockwave down the tunnel at explosive speed, tearing rock and structure from the ceiling near the entrance and burying the nearest cars under collapsed stone. The pressure wave didn't stop at the entrance either. It rebounded back down the tunnel's length, striking the fuel and ammunition cars still trapped inside hard enough to rupture fittings and ignite a second, larger explosion sealed entirely within the mountain. Two remaining drones caught in the shockwave outside were thrown off course, one crashing into the hillside, the other losing its picture entirely and detonating harmlessly short of the tracks. 3 drones remained, and part of the train, mainly ammunition cars near the front, hadn't yet been destroyed. One struck the coupling between the locomotive and the nearest surviving car, welding the wreck together so nothing could be towed clear. A second slammed directly into that car's midsection, triggering the ammunition stored inside in a chain of secondary blasts that tore the car apart entirely. The last drone found the wheel assembly beneath it and finished the job, derailing the wreckage into the burning fuel spreading across the tracks. All 8 drones were gone by the end. The tunnel entrance was buried, the locomotive was destroyed, and the cars still sealed inside the mountain kept burning long after the operation itself was complete. This wasn't just a train, it was a working stretch of one of Russia's key transport corridors, linking the western part of the country to the Far East. The same route that moves military cargo west toward the front line, now closed indefinitely. What mattered most here wasn't the value of one destroyed train, it was the distance. Deep inside Russian territory, along a route Moscow considered functionally unreachable, drones costing a fraction of the missiles fired to stop them still found a way through every layer built specifically to prevent exactly this. What do you think was the deciding factor in this operation? the relay chain that kept the drones connected across impossible range, the decoys that drained an entire air defense battery's ammunition, or the decision to strike the fuel car instead of the detonator when the video feed failed. Let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe to Military Dispatch for the next tactical breakdown.